Hello, dear learners. I welcome you to this new lecture of the lecture series on students' projects. This is lecture number three. Now, lecture number three should have been the introduction, but I believe that introduction we may do later, like maybe a lecture four or lecture five. But literature review is even more important because literature review begins even before you begin your project, the title itself. So literature review is the most important part of any research project, which is the foundation of a research project or a research paper or a thesis or whatever research work you do. So the title of this series, this lecture is Conducting and Writing Literature Review. Now, now see, what is conducting literature review and what is writing literature review are two different things. So we will discuss thoroughly on the basic concepts of literature review so that this mystery, especially in the minds of the MBA students, UG, PG students of any courses who are doing a research project, even PhD students who are beginning with their PhD, is clear. So conducting literature review is one part and writing literature review is another part. We will discuss it thoroughly in this lecture. So let us begin with this. Now, the first most important thing is what we are going to cover. Most important parts we are going to cover is what is a literature review, why literature review is important, special benefits of literature review, and important aspects to be recorded in a literature review. This is going to be a practical session, and I will tell you most of the things which are not there in the books in this form. So we begin with the literature review. Whenever we think as a researcher, we think that this is a very boring task and it's a clerical work. Sometimes yes, and if you start enjoying it, it is a very good work also. Like literature review probably is the most annoying, frustrating, time consuming, yet the most important part of your project. If somebody comes to me with a project without a literature review, I will simply reject it. So it is a part of your project you are about to undertake. It's a most important part of the project. Now let's see what it is. So it is an examination of the research that has been conducted in the past. So in the past, some people have written a paper. And if today you write a research paper or a thesis or an article or a book, tomorrow it becomes a literature. So anybody else will review it. Like I have around 250 citations in Scopus and 600 plus citations in Google Scholar, which means that 600 studies have reviewed my literature, reviewed my papers. I keep on reviewing for my publications. People keep on reviewing my papers for their publications. So it keeps on going. The effective evaluation of research papers, articles, books to find level of existing work in the field. Why do we do literature review? We want to find that what work has already been done so that we should not repeat it. We should do something new. Existing relationships, like some very important relationship like advertising affect sales. Okay, this is already there in the theory. Now you have to find something around it which is different. Around it means literature is the base and you add on something on your own. Like intoxication products leads to loyalty towards the intoxication products. But there was a study that found cigarette smokers are not brand loyal. Now it is hard to believe that smokers, drinkers, they are not brand loyal. Generally they are. But a study was conducted on school students. So school students, they did not have money. So whatever cigarette is available, they just consume it. So they are not brand loyal. So literature tells you something, you add on something and conduct your own research. Okay. Now, and that is why existing relationships are important to be studied in the literature among the variables. And finally, it leads to a research gap. A research gap means what has not been studied so far. So there may be hundreds of things which have not been studied so far. You pick one or two of them. That's all. So that you can conduct your own research. So, so why literature review is important? Literature review, some of the importance I have already told, but if I specifically see this table, because I'm targeting more on, say, scholars and MBA students, management students, any other project students, whosoever is making a project, whosoever, be it any field, they don't understand the importance of literature. They think that we make a questionnaire or take secondary data and do the findings work and everything, and then it is a good project. But it is not, because there is no foundation. So it brings clarity and focus to your research problem. You identify the research gaps, like what has not been done so that I can do it. Clarify the research area. Clarify the research area means, like, I conducted my PhD. I conducted a research on promotional strategies of banking industry in India. So every time I was questioned that where is the service quality in your research? I said, no, I'm not working on service quality. I was very clear about it. So this clarity comes when you thoroughly do the literature review. So you do not simply say yes to your PhD guide or your project guide. You say, no, sir, this is my scope of the study. Okay. Improve your methodology. When you read out the research papers, you find this is the way that people are conducting research. Like they go for content validity, they go for uh, filtering out the items in the questionnaire, they go for novel statistical tools, they go for pre-testing, they go for post hoc tests. So there are many things that you learn from literature. It provides you with new out of the box and innovative ideas. Like I saw a paper in a journal which is a very reputed journal, GBR, Global Business Review. This journal is published by International Management Institute, Delhi. And I saw a paper, it was tailed as the title of the paper included a phrase, a market segmentation approach. So it clicked to my mind. I went through the paper and I found that cluster analysis has been applied, followed by ANOVA. I immediately called my scholar and I said that this is a very good paper and you can do it in your research. He was pursuing his study on generic and branded medicines and all. And he took up this idea and we prepared a paper and it was published in a Scopus Index journal. So this is the way that you actually progress when you read more number of papers, good research papers. I will tell you how to find good research papers and how to review them. So you have to have a little bit of patience, little bit of prior learning of what is literature review, and then you will be well equipped after this session to conduct a literature review. You will be ready for that. It helps in understanding the research design. What is a research design? Research design, basically, if you refer Naresh Malhotra's marketing research book, you find that there is two types of research. One is conclusive, one is exploratory, other is conclusive. Exploratory, you explore new insights, loosely structured and all. There are many features. Conclusive, you have descriptive and causal. So you understand that which research design the other person has applied and how he has executed it. The best part of literature review is in the research paper, you find how a particular problem has been executed. So everything you find, introduction, literature review, methodology, questionnaire, statistical tools, interpretations, conclusion, managerial implications, everything you find in a research paper. If you read five good research papers of a journal, you are ready to write for that journal. You are ready to write your UGPG project, your MPhil, your PhD. You are ready to write that. So it gives inputs for questionnaire designing. So this we will see practically how the inputs are given questionnaire designing. So these are specific benefits, like you have I mean, selection of your project, title, findings of IDVs and DVs, moderating and mediating variables, theoretical framework of the study. What is a theoretical framework? Theoretical framework is like, suppose I am working on adoption of fintech. So fintech is a new technology. So I can find a research paper. Time and again they will talk about TAM, technology acceptance model. So that is something about finding the theoretical framework. Scope of your study, statistical tools, sample size, continuous defense and final defense of project or PhD thesis. What is a continuous defense? In every RDC, Research and Development Committee, progress review, uh, the experts will ask hundreds of questions from you. And how will you answer them? You need a support of literature. Every time you need a support of literature to answer those questions, including the final defense of your PhD. Now, so research paper publications, again, you need to cite. I have referred something, Paul Mittal and Srivastav. This is one of my papers written with Professor Justin Paul and one of my scholars, Garima Srivastav. So I'll see that you see the last point, how well your findings are tied up with the existing literature. Now, when you write the findings of your study, you need some support of existing literature, especially while publishing a research paper. So I'll show you that paper and how they're tied up. So we go to page number 1615. Right. So one of the findings is private sector banks in India are facing cutthroat competition. Therefore, it is natural that they push their products to customers and inform them of services even when they are neither needed nor desired by the customer. Right. You see, Gupta and Mittal 2008. This is my another paper. So this specifically the reviewers highlighted that why this finding, how do you support it? So I supported it with my own paper, that this type of finding is already there, similar finding is already there in the banking industry space, cited by the found by Gupta and Mittal 2008. Now what I want to say is, you see this, every unpublished work requires a literature support. However, once it is published, it becomes support for others' unpublished work. Now, my paper was not published. I required a support from literature. Once it is published, now people can cite it. So, a paper I wrote in 2008 cited in my own work. This is just a coincidence that I cited my own work. You can cite anyone else's work also to support your work, and that is a normal process, right? So now, what is the writing style of literature? Suppose you read a paper. Now, what I would like to show you again the paper. Suppose this is the literature review in this paper. This is all written in a story form. Okay, literature review. Now, service quality, especially in banking sector, has been popular research topic. Okay, Geffen defined service quality as subjective comparison that customers make between this get. This is one aspect, one style of writing the literature. This is one way of writing the literature. Now, how do we find this paper? How do we find this text? This is $1 million question. I will tell you. Okay. Going back to the writing style. Now, the kinds of literature to be reviewed at various stages of the research process and its purposes are different, but that's fine. We are discussing more on writing style. Uh, I'll come to writing style first. This is the writing patterns, and then I'll go back. We can skip this also. All right. I think I'm looking for something different. Yes, this is the slide that I was talking about. What is the style of writing of literature review? Okay, so we can have many styles like chronological, thematic, chronological, but theme wise, methodological. So generally, we follow almost all the styles, uh, but the most popular 95% we follow in research papers is thematic as per the topic, not even chronological, thematic as per the topic. So the second one, which has been marked in red, more important is we call it a story form, format of writing literature. So you can leave this above part, upper part, because this is more in depth, more technical. You can go with the formats of literature review writing like story form, paragraph form. Okay. Now, what is story form? What is paragraph form? So what I have just shown you is a story form. It seems to be a paragraph form, but it is a story form. Now, let me show you a paragraph form. Then we will discuss them thoroughly. These points will discuss thoroughly. This is a paragraph form. Now, in a paragraph form, I write Prabhat and Kumar 2016 analyzed the determinants of consumer bank selection criteria decisions through a survey covering 1198 business school alumni. This information I have recorded, right? Salisbury State University of Maryland using a questionnaire containing 22 factors, and they found what service charges, this. These are the findings. Identified the top five determinants of bank selection decision. Effective advertising was considered as least important, while ATM availability, proximity to the workplace, and closeness to home were ranked 12, 16, and 17 respectively. So this is a style of, say, paragraph style of writing. It contains the country, it contains the sample size, it contains the sample unit, business school alumni, it contains the findings, major findings. So these are the four parameters it contains, right? Now, coming back to important aspects to be recorded. So reference is very important. In text, we cite, like suppose I write a paper with Justin Paul. So I would state it like Paul and Mittal. So last name, okay, only last name and in bracket the year. So referencing, I will have a separate session because it's a big topic. Topic, you should keep it in your records, but you should not write it in the paragraph or story. Don't write it. Scope, area, culture, country, you can write. Methodology, you can write it was a descriptive, exploratory, or what kind of research or what tools were used, you can write. Moderating, mediating variables, independent, dependent variables, yes, you should write. And conclusion, that whatever we have studied, this is the conclusion basically. This is the major conclusion, and this is the sample size and the country and all. So this is important. You should write. Conclusion is the most important. Without that, there is nothing. Now, if you see that how I have written literature review in a paper. In paper, we write very crisp. In projects, we write little elaborate. In PhD, we write more elaborate. There's a very simple difference, let me tell you. Now, this is very crisp. Given defined service quality. So, because this is a definition, there is no requirement of giving, where now you see that this is a bigger one, big one, I think, right? There are two literature reviews. Now, this is also a kind of style of writing. See, Sudesh reported that poor service quality in public sector banks, mainly due to deficiency in tangibility as well as lack of responsiveness and empathy. So, all right. So, this is one style. Now, you see, in the entire paragraph, no sample size, no statistical tools, no country, no context, nothing is there. Still, it is a good literature review. Why? Because the conclusion is there, the relationship of variables is there, the results are there. So mainly results are most important. Rest everything else you may cite, you may not cite. All right. So continuing with it, whatever we are studying, I just want to add one thing in this part one. I'm cutting this into two parts. So this is part one, and the part two will be containing the practical aspects of the literature review. How do we conduct it? How do we find papers, and how do we write it? Because finding papers, finding relevant papers, deciding what is relevant, what is not, is also a big deal. So we will have a second separate part for that. Now, this is what a topic objective literature review and questionnaire combination. This is a very interesting combination. Like, how do we relate everything? So, suppose topic is a study of promotional strategies adopted by leading banks in India. This is the topic. Then, what is the objective? The objective is to determine the factors affecting the customer's bank selection. Right? We call it bank selection criteria. Like, what are the criteria people consider before selecting a bank? Okay. So, so that those criteria can be used in the promotional strategies. This is the basic idea behind this objective. Now, this is the way that you conduct the review of the literature. All right. So, in this, you find service charges, reputation of the bank, interest rate, time required for loan approval, friendly tellers, it means behavior of employees, and ATM, proximity to workplace, closeness to home, etc. etc. Okay. So now, while making the questionnaire, you can have a questionnaire like this, a question like this bank selection criteria, and this is on most important to least important, interest rate on home loans, behavior of employees, goodwill, bank's reputation, service charges, and time required for loan approval. So you actually get the variables for your questionnaire. So this is the idea behind how the topic, objective, literature review, and questionnaire are correlated related with each other. Hope you have got some idea about literature review in this first part of the literature review writing and conducting lecture. Now, in the next part, we will simply take a topic which I have already taken, and we will discuss in that second part how do we conduct the literature review, how do we find the papers, how do we check their relevance, and how do we write in a paragraph form or a story form. So, thank you very much for your active listening.